Alright, so try again, episode 7, restarting with a different server. Hopefully, not getting as much buffering this time. I was on the Seattle server, so hopefully that was the issue. Looks like it's going pretty good so far. Right. Okay, perfect. In that case, we will continue from where we left off. So I was saying, I'll kind of repeat a bit of what that's good, because there were some technical problems previously. So the build that we kind of looked at last week, it was the one right before GDC 2014. So at that point, I'd been working on the game for about a year and a half. And this was my first GDC. I'd heard a lot about it and finally decided, okay, this looks like it might be a good opportunity to go and meet some other game developers and get other feedback. Hello, Garlic. All right, so, I'm just gonna do like a quick run through of the levels. So this was sort of before I started focusing on visuals, and when I was at GDC, I kind of just would go up to different developers and ask for their feedback. And in the my development log, I talk about I give more specifics about what what the feedback was from different people and so on, but I just wanted to give you guys a view of what this version looked like. Alright, so let's go ahead and, so the biggest stuff I got was like there was a lot of level design tweaks that could be done, and also I really needed to work on the art style. I think everybody just told me that this looked like a very generic first-person puzzle game, and I needed to have a unique art style to stand out. Alright, so let's come back here. Oops. Oh, bless me. Alright, anyway, let's quit out of here and go to so this would have been the version right after GDC. Let's take a look at this to see if there are any changes. I think we might probably be better off skipping down to like checking out some of these other ones, but I think we'll start to see some more experiments with visuals. Stipnative, hello. Man, I really wish I'd added a skip key for these builds early on. It took me like 3 years before I looked at it. This is not a previous game. This is an early version. The game used to be called Relativity. Okay, so yeah, you see coming out here, I'm like trying to tease the players with some interesting stuff behind this, like trying to have the window to show this stuff. And I'll come back and talk about this stuff later, because I wanted, if you have a window in the game, a window doesn't necessarily exist to let light in. What it is the barrier that lets players see the other side, right? So that's different from a wall. Right, because a wall is a barrier, but you can't see the other side, whereas glass, you can't see the other side. Alright, so looks like I wasn't doing too much these are, I would like make a ton of builds. March 28th, 2014. I really, this part is not skippable. Yeah, if you do the command ! I think time lapse, there's actually a YouTube video that does it's like a 10-minute YouTube video that goes through all the screenshots I took during development. Alright, looks like not a whole lot of changes yet. 30. The reason why I'm going through these one by one is just I want to find the ones where I start to play with it. So yeah, now it's like now in the game I can skip, I can do no clip, I can spawn cubes, a lot of really useful tools as a developer for skipping. Actually, I talked to the Kentucky Route Zero guys. I think they said like the first 3 versions of the game they didn't have a skip button. Like if they wanted to debug stuff, they just had to play the game all the way through up to that point. So definitely take the time to make those tools. I think so. I just did not update the date number there. Unless I'm like basically trolled myself. I mean, that's what I was doing. I was basically playing. I was playing through the game, so it's like if there was a problem half an hour in, I'd have to play the game for half an hour and then be like, oh, that's the problem. Aha! So it looks like this is the very first version of me playing with edge detection. Alright, so you can see here we still have the, like right there you can see that's the ambient occlusion. Now I believe that is baked in. I think at this point I was still baking. This looks like Spider-Man. Look at this floating thing here. It's just hanging above. At the time I didn't quite know how to like position the layer. Alright, that actually looks kind of cool. That bloom looks kind of cool actually, huh? I actually think, so to me this looks very anti-chamber. Alright, so we're coming down, not having a whole lot of changes. Right, so yeah, I wish I could like hurry up and just get outside and show you stuff, but let me play around with this. Okay. Oh, right, you know what? That doesn't even work at the moment. Alright, so it's basically the same game at this point. Okay, yeah. So yeah, like I added the light, and that's kind of the outside area. Right now, I want you to pay attention to a few things. So if you take a look at, oops, if you take a look at here, you'll notice these little spots, right? All these artifacts. You notice these. Look at how many of them are around. So that was kind of the early implementation. There were a lot of false positives. It's really bad there. And I had that problem for a long time. And I remember what happened was later this year in 2014, I was in Tokyo Game Show and Lucas Pope was there. And I asked him to play the game. And I was like, because he was working on, what's it called? Obra Dinn, the Return of the Obra Dinn, and so he was working on edge detection. I was kind of talking to him about it I was talking to him about edge detection, and I showed him this, and he was like, "You gotta fix this." He's like, "This you know, it's just gonna annoy the crap out of some people, and it does. Like, especially having seen the edge detection now, like look at that. It just feels like ants crawling, right? Look at that. There's so many of them. Ugh. Yeah, and it's at this point it's not recursive. So I think at this point we're still focusing on the visuals. I want to show you guys the build I took to PAX East. Now, when was PAX East 2014? Okay, so PAX East was April 11th to 13th. So, means when something references itself. Like he's talking about the woe wrapping. Having the woe wrap around on itself. That's what he's talking about. Oh shit. I just burned my pot cooking oatmeal. I turned down the flame, then I started the stream and completely forgot about it. And then I was like, man, I smell burning. Alright, so this is the version that I showed at PAX East. Alright, so you can see I added a way to skip it. Okay. So out here. Oh, the movement is so slow. Oh yeah, so I added arrows to, like right before PAX, I added, I was showing this to a friend, and they were like, actually I think it was Greg. He made Tumbleseed, and Greg was like, why? He's like, I wish there were arrows, and I added arrows. You know, at first I didn't want to, and then I added them, and I was like, man, they're really helpful. And that's when I realized I needed to keep them. Yeah, you can see, look at that. All the false positives. So here, if you look, you can see that the edges, so this is the very first movement, but look at how much thinner this edge is compared to these ones. Right. Oh yeah, so you can see here I started to implement the feedback that I got from Brendan with at GDC, right, which was to have the to have the window show up here instead of, right, because they used to it'd start out here and then I would just see like a gray wall here. So instead we moved it down, so you always see this window at the end. Now I did get, so this right here would be the wrong position now, because I don't like, I wouldn't have the glass extend out here. Instead I would have it here. And the reason for that is because by having the window kind of go from this end, extend into the bend, you establish a sense of direction. So as in, if I turn around, like, you can always, if you look down a hallway and you see a window, that is the right direction, right? Whereas here, this is actually placed in the wrong direction. So like, there should not be a window on this left, so there shouldn't be a window here. Instead, there should be a window here. It should be going like this. So we would actually get rid of this, have a wall, and then there'd be a window right here in front of me and a window here. Now I also got rid of a lot of hallways like this. Like, this is very convoluted for a hallway. I don't have ones like that anymore. So, all right, I'm just gonna play through this and talk about like a lot of the feedback that I got from PAX West. So there were a few things that I noticed at PAX. Like, a lot of people would start. Let me go back a bit. I'm gonna backtrack. Well, actually, you know what? I'm not gonna go back. But they would start in that first room, and they'd be like, "Oh, I see. It's a bunch of puzzles inside rooms. I get it." And then they'd basically leave because there's a lot of games you want to check out, and so they would never get outside. So here, it was sort of designed that you could like get outside in about 10 minutes, right? Because people will play a game for like 5 to 10 minutes at a show, and you really want to grab their attention. Okay, so here's a puzzle. Oh yeah, you guys might notice, you guys have probably seen variations of this. Now previously it was, this piece did not extend all the way out to the wall. It was like that, right? You know, so this was not there. But then a lot of times people would kind of put one box here and then they'd end up on the other side and they'd be like, hey, where's the box I put? So, and also eventually what I also did was I noticed that some people would solve the puzzle this way, whereas the intended one is to solve it this way. So to get rid of the wrong solution, I actually eventually just added a way, I just extended this all the way out there. So in the current version of the game, this piece actually just comes all the way out. So by having it reach this wall and this wall, it eliminates two areas where people make mistakes. Like, you can't even make those mistakes anymore. All right, so let's put this guy here. Because you see, like, you could end up here, which was not, all that did was it left room for errors. All right, so you were supposed to get out here after this. Now, I made a mistake, which is I put a puzzle at the end that I shouldn't have. Okay, so it was this puzzle. So here, you know, you got those switches that you can press on. Now this is too high. So what this is supposed to do is, the solution is supposed to be this. So just put it here, and you step on that, and you press it, and then you go outside. Now this is a problem because a lot of people got stuck here. A lot of people stopped playing the game here, and I was like, but this is the most exciting part because you get to go outside. So Now, there were two things I changed with this puzzle. One was the way it's actually presented now is you have a room and you go inside and there's a switch. It's actually broken into two parts. In that this purple cube is actually part of the wall. So the wall just sticks out like that. So that means that you go inside and then the first part of the puzzle is you stand on the piece and you press it open. And then you see this. So if you don't get it right away, you can always look at the wall and like the wall, like you just solved it previously, right? And then I also realized, why am I putting this at the end of this sequence? I should not be like, I can just put it at the beginning of the room. All right, now let's talk about this area design. And I've covered this in, so a lot of people, they'd come outside. So the people that did make it out here, they'd come outside and they'd be like, oh my, this looks so cool. I wonder what happens if I jump off. And it's like, oh. Not that interesting. Right? Okay, now let's talk about, so the design of this area stayed the same. Oh, this is annoying. So the design of this area actually stayed the same for a long time, and I'll talk about why this was bad. So what I was thinking was, you come out here and it's very easy to get lost. And I was thinking, okay, because this thing is out here, you'd go, like you'd come out of this room and you'd see that first, and you go grab the box, like the box drop. Yeah, but you actually have the spherical switch at the beginning. It's not, the problem there is not the spherical switch. The problem there is having to stand on the box. Like it's not you actually learn to press the switches at the very beginning of the game. Right? So, okay. So the idea was like you had to come out here, this, and you had to see this, and then you had to go straight into that door. Oh yeah, it is oddly placed. It's not it's straight, right? But what happens is if you choose not to follow the steps that's intended, and you go here, all of a sudden you just become super lost. Like you're like where you have no sense of, there's no sense of logic to the world. So I think one of the things that I learned was, because the way this area is designed, it's sort of just haphazard. I kind of just put these hallways. One thing I realized was there needed to be some kind of logic to the world. The player needs to look at it and see like, okay, this is how the world is organized. This is how it's structured. You can't just put, like I see a lot of, this is why procedural generation doesn't work for these levels, right? People are like, well, why don't you use procedural generation to make your levels? And it's like, I'd end up with stuff like this, but even more confusing, and just players would have a really hard time figuring out where they need to go. And the reason how I figured out that this was bad level design was I would keep track of the amount of time that people spent in each level. So it's like, okay, well, people finish puzzle 1 at 1 minute, this person finishes puzzle 1 at 2 minutes. And one thing I noticed was it didn't matter. So obviously if you finish puzzles, the early puzzles faster, you're better at puzzle games, or you're just better at solving puzzles here. And if you take longer, you're not as good at solving puzzles. Or like for now, but different skill levels, right? But one thing I noticed was that it didn't matter how much time you spent in the first part. Once you got outside, people seemed to be spending the same amount of time wandering out here until they figured out where to go. Right? And that's interesting because that means that what you're doing out here is not dependent on puzzle solving skill. Like basically it was pretty much a random event when people figured out where to go next. Notice also here, look at the lines behind the windows. Notice how they're white. So notice the errors here. The white lines, all those, the false positives. Just that this line looks, look at that, look at the stairs, look at how ugly that looks. Oh, it looks like I also got rid of the ring. You know how there was that like circle that would spit outside? So instead it's look at the color change, it's an instant fade. No, it's not even a fade, it just instantly changes. Right. That always felt harsh. I made it a fade eventually. Okay. Actually, you know what? I do want to solve this area. I want to solve this area because I want to go... I'll solve this area. I want to show you level 2. And another really good feedback that I got. Alright, so... And I don't even know how... Oh, right. Alright, so let's play through this. This is a big build. This is an important build in the timeline of Manifold Garden. By the way, any advice on how to get rid of burnt oatmeal from a pot? Well, this puzzle isn't in the game anymore. Well, not in this version anyway. Huh. Oh yeah, because the door would get shoved in there. Alright, so in the current version, some of you guys might notice this, right? The way this sequence... So that was a linear sequence of puzzles, and in the end, you get 2 of these. You get 2 cubes. And you had to bring this cube over the way out to here to open up that door. Now that door's got a different pattern than the others. Signified special. Okay, so that was, so that had to do, like, you saw I entered a linear, basically there are 2 linear sequence of puzzles out here and you have to figure out where to solve them. This structure of having this room at the end that gives you 2 cubes, I do end up using it in the current version. But again, like coming out here, notice how it basically relied on line of sight, right? I had to basically be looking straight forward. Now, if I turn around, start walking, I would not, there was, you know, I would miss that. So there wasn't a way for me to use logic to discover it. And you just had to like, that the line of sight of where to go next was there. I do want to take a second, I'll after this, I'll take a second, we'll look at the new version. Oh, but see, oh, okay, so here was the other puzzle, right? So the idea was you'd come out here, you press this, and you'd look at the purple, you see the purple square. And you're like, well, there's the purple room that I gotta get into. And, you know, I was kind of hoping that because you had gone through that one and had gone through this exit room, that you would figure out that this is the exit. So I, like, one of the thinkings that I wanted player to do was to be like, okay, well, look at, follow the tunnel, here's a room, here's an entrance. And then boom, right? Look at that. If there is the green button and a green switch that I need to get to. I don't even know what happened. It might just get lost. Oh yeah, no, you could, you know what, you just had to press it again. You just lost it. Yeah, you just lost it. That's actually why this was introduced. These switches, right? Because it would reset the cube. I'll show you guys with the green one when I'm there. So, you know, then you have to kind of like navigate your way to the green world. And I did really like the green look here. I think green looks very nice right now. It's actually not a bad color palette. Yeah, that's why these were introduced. Actually, it was because when you're out here, and I think we can do that. I think you just lost it. Yeah, it didn't fall back. You just it was just gone. So anyway, again, you have to kind of come down here, very random. So I don't know if anybody got this far. I think at PAX East most people left after after they got outside. All right, this. Well, I respawned it, and it is the same cube. I believe I don't think I was destroying it. I believe it was just getting we just teleported it back. Okay, so we come out here again, like that thing with the window hadn't been established up until this point, right? Having the window at the end. Oh, the thing I was asking about earlier was getting rid of burned oatmeal from a pot. Right, and another thing you'll notice that I start to do especially in the current version, like this, it actually looks kind of weird here. It doesn't have it, but notice how there's no door, right? And a lot of people complain like, oh, why was there a button before I enter this area? And the reason why I do that is because it forces the player to be in a certain orientation, right? Because you can see here I can just come in and I land this way, and I don't get the introduction of the puzzle. Whereas if I have a door here and it's a purple switch, then pressing it ensures that the player is in that orientation. Yeah, I know. I started making it, and then I started streaming and forgot about it. Okay, so we have this purple cube. Right now, we kind of come out here. All right, so I learned a lot of really good lessons here. Right here, come out here, and then here's a second room. If it opens, look at that. The edge detection was not. This was using render texture. The edge detection was not getting moved across to the other side. All right, and then we had this kind of little visual bug. And okay, so here was this puzzle was kind of annoying. And it's not even in the game anymore. But you basically had to like stand on one, pick it up, move it up, bring it up here, pick it up, move it up, pick it up, move it up. And you know, it was like if one mistake and you'd have to like redo this whole thing. Not only do you have to redo the whole thing, you had to like move the blue box. Not only did you have to like bring the orange block up again, you had to move the blue box down. Huge pain in the butt. Ended up getting rid of that. Like, not too many people made it this far, but the few that did not like that part. Oh, notice the windows. Those are early versions of the really fancy windows. Now, at the time I had to make these manually, it was a huge pain. Like, you know, I had to move, like, you know, every single block was individually placed. So painful. It was so hard to make adjustments, make changes. Alright, so I did like this. I did like this opening area. And I did like this. And here you're starting to see some of the architecture. Again, this is not good because when you come down, you actually fall straight through. It's not something I would do. Again, I would put doors out there. Okay. So you come out here. Some of you might recognize this spot. Okay. Look at the way this is designed. We've got a puzzle. We've got a puzzle here. we've got a puzzle there, and we've got a puzzle over there and over there. So this is actually what became the first level. All right, I'm not going to solve the puzzles, but I'm going to talk about the lessons I learned from this version at PAX East. So, you know, there were kind of like puzzle pacing problems. So the first was that, you know, most people played for about 5 to 10 minutes and they'd walk away. That's not necessarily that your game is boring, but oftentimes people want to, you know, they're at PAX East, there's a million games, they want to go see all of them. So people kind of will want to like get a sense of what your game is about. Now, when they see, when I don't show you, you don't get a vision of what the outside looks like until like the third or fourth puzzle. But there were some people who would like solve one puzzle and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, okay, I get it. I'm gonna leave now." But they'd walk away with the impression that the game is just a bunch of indoor rooms with puzzles, which is not, right? So that's why in the current version there is a window on the floor. Like I'll talk about that. You know, at the end of this, we'll go look at the current version, and I just want you to guys just to see that evolution. So I put a window to outside in the first room, so it's like you don't even have to solve a single puzzle. You'll be like, okay, there is you know, there is more than just puzzles inside rooms. Now, that first level, I ended up getting rid of it because the way that was designed was just very sporadic. There was no sense of logic. This area has logic, right? And you know, I started the playtest. I had this area as the second level for a long time, like for a year. Maybe not quite a year, like another 6 months. And everybody was like, "Man, I really like the second level." And I was like, why don't I just make the second level the first level, right? Because the first level, there was no sense of logic. Second level has a sense of logic. Like this level is organized in a way that you can understand. Yeah, not relying on line of sight to guide people for where to go next, right? Like here, if you want to figure out where to go next, you can be like, you know, you can sort of look to see which area. This was, now what are these for? This is intended for you to jump off and land. Wow, this is really slow fall. But the problem was didn't have a good sense of purpose. It wasn't really clear how you had to do it. Okay. Let me see if I can carry multiple cubes. God, I can't even lift it. Look, I'm trying to like lift up. Notice I can't even do that. Actually, I'm not gonna solve this. I don't want to spoil the puzzle. Anyway, this was it. So I'd like to jump back. Oh, right, and this structure, this is for you to easily land back here. Now, after PAX East, I was talking to a friend, and that was a mathematician. He was actually a friend, because I was staying with him. He was a grad student at MIT at the time. And we were talking about how I think I was talking about the problem with water and a cool thing to do, and and I think I realized like having the world wrap around would solve that problem with water or something. Something really cool. I remember it was a conversation. I was like walking on the street. We went to visit campus and we were talking. I don't know if anybody's been to MIT. They've got this like pub on campus that's that looks like a library. Like it's very well lit with fluorescent, and it was, you know, we were there at like 2 in the afternoon. There was only 2 of us. I think it was like, yeah, it just looked like a library with a pool table and a bar. And we were talking about math stuff, and I think it occurred to me, what was the problem that Woolrapper was trying to solve? I think players falling off. Now, it must have been players falling off or something. So it made all of these areas the same. All right, let me jump back because I want to stuff. Oh, putting stuff in the sky. That's it. That's it. That's right. That's right. Thank you. That actually was it. Yeah. So I just closed it. But, you know, a lot of the feedback from that version of the game was the sky was really empty. Yes, I remember that now. So that actually was a conversation. It started with a conversation. It started with a question from Alex Bruce. And he said, he's like, why? He's like, man, the sky's very empty. You should put stuff in there. And I said, you know, I want everything you see you can be able to get to. Because I really like that, you know, that feeling I had in Skyrim where I saw the mountain in the distance and was eventually able to make my way there. That was incredible. But I can't, if I put stuff in the sky, it's going to be all new content, right? Which I couldn't like. That was not an actual experiment. That was mostly just a joke. Let's skip this. Okay, yeah, we switched this to square, to cube. Right, and then realizing that wrapping the world around, you can make that happen. You can have the feeling of being really big, but not. Oh, right. So see, immediately after this, so I brought up the door to the outside early on. So when you came outside, you would see it. You start to see the outside area, right, when you came out. But, you know, in the end, I made it even more extreme and just had it precisely where you started. So the outside is still, I think I must have put a tree there. Now there is, I believe, there actually are leaves, but because of the transparency problem, you can't see it through the glass. Though that one you can, I'm not sure why. Alright, let's see. I want to see when we added the wool wrapping. God, I wish I had a no clip. Oh yeah, I also put the switch, so I put it here, so that this door used to be back there. Though this did lead to an empty room that did nothing. But the reason why I moved it up here was because a lot of people would carry the box up the stairs. So I just put it here so you couldn't miss it. And yeah, look, that's where I started to add. This was one of the first versions of the wall wrapping. So let's actually go outside. I want to take a look at this. Let's run through this because I'd like to take a look at the actual wall wrapping I did. Look at that though. Look at the white lines. Look at how ugly. Because I think I don't know why the white line is there. I think maybe the edges faded out from black to white, and they were just so far. But there's some black. It's just, yeah. It took a while for me to get good at figuring out the right shader. Yeah, which I use to my advantage. Sometimes you can use stairs to guide players. Aha, you see this other room? Remember how it used to be, it was in this like L shape, right? There was, remember how it was just, like it was like this wall would be flat. Like 2 of the walls would be flat. Well, you know what? People kept trying to go up that wall, so I was like, you know what? You don't even have an option to do that anymore. That is exactly why that is there. So we see now we're getting to the current version of the game. For those of you who've played the newer version, you probably start to recognize this. You know, these hallways are really long, really boring. Aha. You see? You stand on this piece to open that. Oh, see, I tried to break it up in 2 parts, but I was still making it in 2 separate areas. I did eventually make it into 1 area. Now, notice also how this area is very linear. You don't ever backtrack. You just kind of keep moving forward. Right, you're... that puzzle was not pointless. And Riofer, please calm down. This is an early version. There are reasons why these things went away. You mean the one I just solved? That one? The yellow one? That was not pointless. I mean, that helps people solve this one. Oh, there's that. Yeah, I see I got rid of these. This to a window. The one with the red cube, I had to raise up the stairs. Wait, in this version or the previous one? Alright, so now we're outdoors, right? And we can... Now, I think the cube doesn't... So this is the very first version of wall wrapping. Look at how far apart things are. Now, I don't think the... I don't think the box fell. Yeah, you just lost the box. Can I fall while carrying the box? Okay. Box physics is just broken. So, but yeah, we still had kind of a lot of problems early on, which is like it was super confusing. You know, people fell off and then they just couldn't figure out where to go. But yeah, let me... Oh yeah, so see, that's the leaves, right? You could see them, but for some reason they're just not visible. They were intended... The trees... So, now you can grow trees. I actually combined... utilizes it a lot. I'll show you the current game. So, like... Notice the trees. The trees don't do anything. They just guide the player. But currently now... In this version, the trees are... These boxes are fruit that grow on trees, and you can use the fruit to grow... You can use the box to grow trees, right? So, it's not... Yeah, I ended up... It's kind of funny that these two basically ended up getting combined into one. Alright, I'm going to go... I'm going to skip ahead. I'm going to play a new version of the game. First one I need to do is actually need to delete some saves. Alright. Now let me get this version of the game. Alright, here we go. We've got 2793, I believe this is the latest one. So this was made, I made this yesterday. Hardly difficult. Thank you for the host. Welcome everybody. We were actually just taking a look. So this is a kind of a special stream. It's called Unfolding the Garden, and I'm looking at early versions of my game Manifold Garden. We just looked at a build from April 2014. Now, this is the latest version. This is the newest version. I just kind of just something to compare to. There is a loading icon at the bottom. Yeah. Alright, so here we go. Now I just want to take a look at this early stuff, right? Notice how you see this room, you see the outside right away. You don't have to solve a puzzle. You just start the game, look outside, and it's like, oh, cool. Now look at how much nicer that wall wrapping looks, huh? Right. We use the stairs. How people were going up the stairs. People go upstairs. I use the stairs to get the prompt. So the game has come along. Now notice the window, right? Again, we've established the window always starts from the end of the hallway, continues into the bend in the right direction. This stops you from, orients you correctly. And just like your movement speed, this is like, so I'm moving at the movement speed, right? Like, look at how much faster I'm moving. Hey, Jazz Punk. Oh, that looks really cool. That looks very lovely. There's probably a good reason why I got rid of it. Notice how this version, right? I mean, they're not useless. They were all there for a reason that I thought was good at the time. But notice how this extends all the way out here, right? And all the way back. Unlike the previous version, which kind of came out like that, but it left room for players to make mistakes on those two places. Yeah, again, the window, the door. Now, notice how instead of the switch, we've kind of combined it with the trees. And now you get out here. This is the second level. Dropping the cube does behave correctly. Now, one cool thing I added, or it was sort of an accident, but I kept it, is that the player falls faster than the cube. This doesn't make sense, but what it does mean is you can grab a cube out of thin air. No, actually everything should fall the same, depending on the weight, actually. I mean, if we remove resistance from air, yeah, drag. Yeah, disregarding drag, you would fall the same speed. But I made it so the player falls faster. That's one of the things you gotta do with games just to make it more fun. You break physics. But yeah, you can see, right, this has a sense of logic. There's a visual for it. Remember those little things that you had to use to rotate? Well, I made it so there were steps. And then you come out here, then you rotate, and well, then you jump off. Oh, those are just placeholders that I put at the moment. I was using those to like test. I can replace it later, but it's not So, anyway, that's just kind of wanted to show you guys the current version of the game. Let me know if you guys have any questions. It was kind of just a comparison to what that version was from, wow, April 2014. So 3 years ago. Now, there are a few design challenges that I'm dealing with at the moment. For example, I'm looking to actually get rid of the box carrying. So we're thinking of making it more like a C that you store and you can drop. Yeah, we'll take a look at some of the, from here I can also show you guys some of the other levels. This is, so I added, the nice thing about this is having all the debug tools, right? Enabling all the different levels. We will optimize this more. Bad vibes every day. Thank you. We still have a lot of problems. Like, so this, that level loading sequence. So like these boring ones, that's just a placeholder. I'll replace them eventually. It's more just that it's like, we're still working out the problems here, I would say, is not so much the boring versions, but the fact that like there's so much lag and the stuttering, right? Oh, that's weird. What? Oh. Seems like I cannot walk. That's annoying. Yeah, it's currently... There are some bugs I need to fix. Oh, yeah, the reason why they're in the middle of the shrink is because the number of them that are shown is based on how long it takes me to load the actual level. But for now, it's just a set of 5 that keeps repeating. As far as testing goes, the first set of levels was... I mean, I'm just starting to test the non-devs. Oh, you mean like gamers and non-game developers? Generally, gamers are better testers than developers. Developers are a little bit more forgiving, but, well, developers are both more honest and more forgiving, but sometimes you do want player feedback. Okay. Well, I think I'm going to wrap up this stream here today. Grab a bite to eat, and then I think I'll come back in about an hour and do some development streaming. But yeah, I do really like this visual here. I think is pretty cool. Yeah, and sometimes you do need that. Like, gamers tend to be better at playing games, right? And they tend to play more games than developers, at least some of them. And it's always good when a gamer would just be like, if you gotta watch them, you don't always listen to them, but if a gamer is alt F4ing, you know, that's a good sign that I have a problem. I might give you, you know, I've kind of got developer hotkeys. It's not, unfortunately, not so much the parkour stuff, but all right, this is going to be it for today, and I will see you guys a little bit later this afternoon, if not next week. We got some design problems that I want to discuss. So like picking up the box, storing that, progression markers. So it's going to be kind of spoilery, but if you're interested in design, late game design problems, that would be an interesting one. So right now it's 2:20 p.m. I'm going to come back at 3 p.m. and I will talk to you later. All right, and as always, thanks so much for the support. If you like the channel, if you like the stream, you should follow the channel. And we've got a Steam store page, Manifold Garden. It's on Steam. You can add it to your wish list. Tell your friends about it. All right, peace out, everyone.